and welcome back. My name is Jane Corley with Pick Visions, Media Arts and Photography. If it's your first time here, welcome. Make sure to like this video if you learned something new, subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell so you can be notified every time a new video is uploaded every week. In today's episode, we're going to take a studio tour, see how you can use small spaces, small office spaces, small bedrooms, medium bedrooms, and really make the most out of a studio space in your home or in a small office. Let's get started on our studio tour. First and foremost, you need to figure out what type of studio you're going to be running. Are you going to be doing just families, more babies? You need, a lot of different props, so you're going to need a lot of storage for those props. Are you going to be a modeling photographer where you're going to need a lot of space and mirrors and outlets for your clients to plug in and primp and crimp? Are you going to be taking photos of products? So you're going to need backdrops and sleek items that you can place these products on so that you can have those flat lays that you're wanting. What is the purpose of your studio? That's first and foremost. Next, that's going to lead you to lighting. Your lighting can be very, very flexible depending on your budget. If your budget is a little bit lower, if you have, just starting out, there's no shame in that game, y'all. I've said in my previous episodes, there's a lot of things you can do with a floor lamp. A lot of things that you can do with different fluorescent, bright white, solid white, all the different shades of light bulbs that you can buy at your local hardware store or grocery store, just the different types of light. You can use those light tonalities in your studio by just using some sort of pre-made light source like a table lamp. It's all about lighting placement. We'll have another video later on about lighting placement, but the next thing to consider after lights is going to be backdrops. Your backdrops are going to give you a multitude of options that you can shoot your clients on. If you have a solid white backdrop like this one you see behind me, there's a limitless amount of things that you can do with that option. This actually creates somewhat of a green screen in your studio. I also, as you can see here, in the corner of the frame, I have a black version as well. These are Mylar backdrops. I usually commit to one backdrop in the studio and one backdrop in my mobile studio, but just be mindful, the different backdrop cloth materials is going to make a difference about how you are going to be able to treat it, how you're going to be able to wash it. When it comes to alternative backdrops other than just white or just black, I do have, and I'll show you, some areas where I have lace hanging from a window, as well as a blackout garnet curtain. The next backdrops I have are actually smaller backdrops. They're just more tapestries. I actually have a collection of placemats that work really well for infants and headshots. It's all about fitting your subject in a frame and then filling that backdrop of that frame with a color or a texture, just something to pop. You can also take really great fabrics that are in your own closet. If you have a wispy, drapey skirt, kind of a very beachy skirt, that skirt can be spread out and now you have that new texture. If you also play with your depth of field and have a lower depth of field when you're shooting your subject, move that subject closer to the camera, further away from the background to create a blurred effect, a more shallow depth of field that focuses more on your client. If you can use these common textures that you already have within your possession at home, it's going to save your indoor studio space budget drastically. Take what you got and make what you want, y'all. Now let's move on to our next topic. Should you have an office in your studio space? Now, if you've got the room for it and you can tuck an office to work on your computer away and really just use that space solely for post-production, use that space for signing contracts with your clients, if you have space in your small studio space to have an office set aside, outside of your customer environments, of your backdrops and all your little nooks that you use for backdrops, if you can afford to have that space in your indoor studio, awesome. I'm a laptop girl, and I work off a network and a drive, and I don't need a whole mess of space. It's easier for me to pack my laptop up and work in different environments when I'm working on post-production stuff. Sometimes that change of scenery is great. And that was good if that's the way that your workflow works. If you don't mind moving around, I would suggest not having your office space within your indoor studio, especially if it's small. You can just better use that space in another way to better facilitate the needs of your clients. So when you first get into your studio space, you need to start visualizing the zones that will be identified by the type of photographer that you're going to be. The zones refer to how are you going to break up the room to get as many different backdrops and uses out of the planes within your room. So, for example, working my way around my room, I've got my setup for my YouTube tutorials. I've got my 2 pictures on a blank wall. Everything's very clean. Everything's very on purpose. Moving around the room, I have a clean slate backdrop. The color is a matte gray, something very neutral, very easy to take out of the back and replace a backdrop with a color or a texture or just a backdrop scene. It's very clean. The next area you move over to is a old antique wooden armoire with a large mirror. I have a collection of props and flowers and candles and things that I can just place in the backdrop for an extra pop of color placed on that backdrop. You move around to my window, my awesome window. I sit directly across from it to do my YouTube tutorials. That window is split in half with a curtain rod. That curtain rod is just a basic curtain rod. It's nothing fancy. I didn't spend, $40 on it. It was probably something I just had already. One of those white curtain rods. And we put some heavy duty screws in them. And I put my lace curtains on one side and my blackout curtains on the other. The blackout curtains can be moved all the way over to fill the whole frame, and my lace curtains can be brought over to fill the whole frame. Now in the afternoon, I get pretty aggressive light through that window. If it's cloudy, it's not as aggressive, but that's where I use the lace with a mixture of the blackout curtain to get the lighting that I want on my YouTube tutorial videos. Moving around my room, I now come to my Mylar backdrop. My Mylar backdrop, as I said, is a 16 by 20. The 16 by 20 allows me to go up, 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 so I have a full frame view, and it allows me to pull some down on the ground if I'm needing to work closely with a small client or, product photography. I can just really pull that out and use it as a clean slate. Same with the black one as well. Next, I actually have a closet tucked right back here where you see the black Mylar backdrop hanging. That closet has no door. That closet allows me to hang up tapestries and larger pieces of fabric. This allows me to use 4 on a pretty regular basis, just stationed up there either with thumbtacks, or you can use tension rods within that door frame, kind of like a shower tension rod. You can get ones that will fit door frames. That allows you to have multiple layers of backdrops, and having those as larger pieces of fabric, not only are you now not constrained to that doorway frame, you are able to pull that fabric up to the wall next to it, creating more of a drape, something a little bit more organic to that backdrop. I do have one last zone I will talk about that isn't necessarily part of a studio space setup. I do a lot of educational videos such as Photography Fridays, and I do a Media Arts Mondays. We're on a Photoshop tutorial binge right now, but I also do classes individually on location with other customers. So I do have a literature area, and that literature area is just if I need creative inspiration, if I need to get unstuck, if I have a question about something I'm working on for a client, usually this information in this area will help me. If not, I know who to call. You start connecting with other photographers in your area. Sometimes they'll have stuff that you can borrow, like props or extra lighting equipment and different objects that can expand the reach of your own studio. In this space here, I also have set aside, it's kind of like my go box. It's got all of the stuff that I need to quickly break down my backdrop frame, quickly break down my lighting equipment, so that all I have to do is go in this box and go. I've got my extension cords, I've got my dampening, I've got my reflectors, I've got everything in this Rubbermaid box that I need for a shoot if somebody calls and says, hey, are you available this afternoon? So if you're going to be an indoor and outdoor studio, be mindful of having that area prepped, prepared, in a designated zone so that you don't have to go looking for it if a client calls and wants a session on the whim. So I hope this video was helpful on how to create your very own small studio space. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Check out the descriptions for all of my equipment. And until next time, Jane Corley with Pick Visions, Media Arts and Photography. Make sure to like this video if you learned something new, subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell so you can be notified every time a new video is uploaded every week. Until then, see you later, guys.